Okay, sweet. Just trying to think of anything interesting that's happened in the past week in not quite a fortnight. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Overcast Gamer Show. My name is Abe Foster. It is a glorious day here in Auckland. Quite a nice one. I'm joined, as per usual, by
Reagan Harper.
Balthazar Valentine.
How's paint me a picture, guys? How's it looking down there?
Curtainy.
Curtainy, is it?
Yeah, well, there's just curtains. I'm looking through a gap in the curtains now. No, it's pretty good down here, actually. I went to the supermarket shortly before we started recording, and yeah, the sun was out, people were out, shorts were on. Not me, I don't wear shorts, but people out had shorts on. So clearly relatively warm. I had to roll my sleeves up.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's the sign of a warm day in Wellington.
Yeah,
is that you just
roll your sleeves up.
You never take your jersey off. You just kind of
roll it up and pull the zip down a little bit.
So do you not own a pair of shorts? Is that real?
I do own a pair of shorts. I own 2 pairs of board shorts, and I own 1 pair of jorts. Jean shorts.
Oh man, I would pay money to see you in those.
Well, maybe if you just cruise up and down
Patreon and put that as a stretch goal.
I wore them to the dairy the other day when it was really hot. Like, it was so hot. I wore them and a Call of Duty Infinite Warfare t-shirt, and I felt
that's great.
And I felt horrible about myself when I got back. I was like, well, so that's the image I'm projecting to the public now, is a jorts wearing Call of Duty player. Nice.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Well, I can speak from the perspective of someone who's actually kind of been outside today. I tried to go for a bike ride this morning, and because I'm training for some cycling goals that I committed to, and ended up bursting 2 tubes. So
straight away?
No, not straight away, but I like both in the rear tire, and got stuck on down by the dump on Happy Valley Road, then put a new tube in because they had a spare one. Then got all the way back around to Miramar essentially, and burst it again. So then had to walk from there home, and it was pretty demoralising. So, but
that's one hell of a ride, Reagan, from Miramar to the dump. That's a long way.
That was only about a third of the distance that I was planning on riding. So, yeah, it.
Just in reference to the dump, I've heard tell that there's a caravan parked somewhere down Happy Valley Road that sells hot dogs, referred to as dump dogs by some people that I know. Apparently quite good, despite the name.
Interesting. I have never seen it, but there may well be such a caravan. I'm not sure.
Check out, look out for it next time you're
I will. I'll report back. I ride through there all the time, so I'll go hunting and report back next podcast.
Very nice, very nice. Well, Balthazar, do you want to tell us what's happened in the last week and a bit in regards to your life, man?
Actually, I mean, I don't go too much into too many things because, there's a lot of stuff that happens in life and not all of it is relevant or needing to be brought up on a podcast.
Absolutely.
But I've had a pretty phenomenal fortnight, just in all aspects of life, really. This fortnight feels like it's been one in which, to get boring for a gaming podcast, I've just achieved a lot of life goals and made a lot of progress towards a lot of career goals.
Nice.
So I've had a pretty phenomenal fortnight, and that has then kind of almost reflected back onto the gaming aspect as well, where, if you have a good day and you're in a good mood when you get home, your mood gets even better because now you're free and can do whatever you want, kind of thing.
Play some fucking video games.
So I've gotten a lot of. I'm so close to getting a platinum trophy. Like, that's, I'm not a platinum hunter, but my fortnight's been going so well. I almost got a platinum trophy. I've just, it's phenomenal.
What's that in?
Dark Souls 3. I'm missing 2 trophies, and I can feasibly get them both in probably another 2 hours of play.
Nice.
So I will platinum Dark Souls 3. It will happen.
Good job. Yeah, I'm the same with Horizon Zero Dawn. I've got 2 trophies to get. I don't know what I need to do for them, but it's it's just there. I'll get it soon.
Yeah.
At some stage. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
It's probably the most upbeat I've ever heard you, Balthazar.
Yeah. One of the things I will talk about, because this is pretty funny. This isn't, it's something that's gone well, but it's certainly a mood elevator. Is I hate fucking kids. Like, I hate kids. I'm
with you on that.
I had a friend, like back when we were in high school, who on the bus, whenever the kind of younger kids were getting too rowdy, we'd always be sitting at the back, and you'd just hear them pipe up in the back, going "fucking kids," and then they'd all suddenly just go silent, like the bus would go silent. It was brilliant. But I've always, like, you know, even though you are one, you know, I was the 8-year-old who hated 5-year-olds kind of thing. You know, the 10-year-old who hated 8-year-olds, 15-year-old who hated 12-year-olds. Like, it's just always, as soon as I'm past an age group, I'm like, oh, they're insufferable.
Old man since birth.
yeah. So the Friday just gone, a new set of Magic the Gathering came out called Amon Ket. And I went and picked myself up a booster box. And I went down at lunchtime, and their Pulsar Max, our local card dealership, hadn't had their stock arrived yet for it. So I was like, okay, when you expecting it in? And the guy was like, I'll come back 3 o'clock onwards. We'll probably get it between 3 and 4. So if you can wait till 4. And I was like, perfect. My shift finishes at 4. At work, I'll swing by after work. So I went by again after work, and sure enough, the supply had arrived, and the store was packed. The queue was almost going out the door. It was ridiculous. It was old people, young people. Like, apparently the set had been anticipated for a long time. It's going to be a very powerful set. So everyone wanted in on it day one, kind of thing. And I was like, shit, this queue's too big. Maybe I won't grab it today. Maybe I'll just go home and save myself some money. But the guy at the counter sees me from through the door and goes, "Oh, come to the front." And the front of the queue was a bunch of kids. I'd say they're probably 12 to 15,
awesome,
who apparently had been waiting there for upwards of an hour, kind of thing, for the stock to arrive at the till waiting. And this guy just calls me to the front straight away, and they're like, "What? We've been here for hours. Where are our cards?" And he's like, no, my man's been here. He was here before any of you. And they're like, "No, he just got here." And he's like, no, he comes right. He came in earlier. He came in and reserved his place at the front. Yeah, at the front of the line earlier when he came in to ask if we had stock left. And I was like, sweet, I didn't know I was reserving my place at the front, but, you know, absolutely, if I can push these kids aside and be like, nah, give me my cards and their cards, and then awesome.
Should have really just rubbed in and bought like every card they had from that.
So how much do you have? I'll buy your whole stock. What is it they want to buy? How many of those do you have? Give them all to me. But yeah, it was just like the end of an already pretty much perfect fortnight was then I also got to shit all over a bunch of kids. It was just, it was brilliant. So good. It was almost like my reward for working hard this week and doing a good job in a lot of ways. It was like, here you go. You can piss off some children to go home at the end of the week.
Oh, it's so good, man. You got your own VIP line.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, the only thing of note that I can really think to bring up is, and I mentioned this on our most recent stream of Outlast 2, which was on Friday, and you can find on youtube.com/Overcast Gamer. I went into Guardians of the Galaxy 2 a few days ago. Really good movie. I won't say much about it because people obviously want to go, and it's still a very new movie and people want to go in unspoiled. I liked it more than the first one, I will say. From what I can remember, I haven't seen the first one in quite a while, but I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 2. The more interesting thing was how long it took to get there. So I'll paint you a picture. I work in West Auckland, sort of northwest Auckland, I guess, in the Rodney district. It's not even in Auckland, technically. It's in Rodney. And we had to go, the movie was at 6 p.m. We finished work at 5, so we had to head off pretty much immediately to deal with traffic. I got about a kilometre before traffic started backing up. And it was, half an hour to go before the movie. I was like, oh, no, this isn't good. It took, I would say, over an hour to get to the movie theater. It was insane. This is my first experience of rush hour Auckland traffic because I don't have the way where I live and where I work. I don't actually have to go onto the motorway. So this was my first experience of going back into Auckland at peak hour, and it was horrific. Not so much like it wasn't people getting angry or anything like that. It was just so tedious and so boring.
You on your motorbike?
Yeah, on my motorbike. Yeah, so you're balancing the revs and the clutch and moving forward about 5 centimeters every 10 seconds, and it's just bollocks.
Yeah.
The other bad thing is I'm not particularly. I'm not too familiar with Auckland just yet because I don't go on the motorway. I don't really know the particular route. So I was following my flatmates in their car. So I couldn't lane split and, go and get through all this traffic because I needed to know where I was going.
Yeah.
So I had to stay behind them and essentially act like a car. And yeah, it was brutal. There was one point where I felt like I might need to go for a leak and just like pull off to the side of the motorway and just go because I couldn't do anything about it. It's really bad. You feel claustrophobic. You're stuck in the middle of hundreds and hundreds of cars.
And people do this every day.
People
subject themselves to that.
The average time spent in traffic in Auckland is 2 hours, apparently.
A day?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's insane, right? I'd go, hey, so I'm surprised there hasn't been people on murderous rampages every Tuesday or something. It's just ridiculous.
That is, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear you had to go through that. But at least you had a nice movie at the end of it,
It was great. Yeah, it was a great film, and I got to miss all the trailers, which I'm always stoked about because trailers ruin movies. So I was happy to get there late and miss all the ads and all the trailers. So it actually ended up really well.
Nice, yeah. We Casey and I went to see the Batman Lego film last night.
Oh, nice! I've heard that's very good.
It was great. Yeah, the first kind of third of it was hilarious. Where it was kind of introducing the characters. Not that you really need introducing to the characters, but the way that they kind of played and made Batman quite humorous was pretty good. He goes out and he saves the day, and then he goes back to the Batcave and he just has lobster made for him, and he just microwaves it because he's been out and he's been busy and he's just lonely. It's really good. If anyone's thinking about going and seeing it, I'd recommend it. With
awesome.
Some lols in there for sure.
Very good. Have you seen the Lego movie, Reagan?
I want to say I have, but I don't. Ages ago when it first came out, I don't really remember too much about it.
Okay. I was just going to ask how it compares to that because I absolutely adored the Lego movie. I think it was my favorite film of 2015. I think it came out.
It was a great movie. Yeah. Do you think it makes me by default a pessimist when I try to remember that song that was, the song from the Lego movie to sing a line off to Reagan, see if he's seen it, and instead of everything is awesome, I misremember it as everything is awful? Do you think that makes me a bad person?
Well, it's interesting because that song is used really in a really smart way as well because, the whole movie's about being a non-conformist and stuff, and the everything is awesome is just everyone putting up their blinders and just being, afraid to see what reality truly is and being afraid to go away from the pack and do your own thing kind of thing. So the everything is awesome is kind of a conformity theme song. Yeah. So it's used in a really smart, intelligent way.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about those films is that the humor is there's enough there for kids to love. It's that classic thing that Shrek does really well. There's layers to the humor and things like that.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
I was just laughing because you can't. It's almost impossible when talking about Shrek in a way that you're trying to say the film is intelligent to not use its own layers analogy when describing it. I was waiting for it, and when you popped it, I laughed.
I'll stay quiet about that.
Yeah, you can't do it.
I could have, but yeah.
The directors of the Lego movie did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, which are both excellent films. I would recommend anyone to see both of those. But enough about movies. We're here to talk about video games. What have you guys been playing, starting with you, Balthazar?
Well, obviously still a lot of Dark Souls 3, since I've almost platinumed it. I finished my, New Game plus? I don't know.
New Game plus.
Insert however many pluses for however many runs I've done now and stuff. And I got one more, partial run ahead of me for the Platinum, but then I'm actually having so much fun with it, I'm probably going to create a new character when I Platinum it to do low-level PvP. And just keep him as a low-level character, but trade across all my +5 and +10 weapons, so that I can just stomp everything.
To take all the challenge out of it.
Yeah. It's PvP. It's the challenge is just how bad can you make this person's life? Just how much of their time
just lay waste to their existence.
How long can you sit in their world, watching them make progress, waiting until the prime time to jump in where they're going to have to do all that progress again because they've just lost everything.
I mean, it's like that video that you sent us where you literally sat in a box for 10 minutes at just before a checkpoint and waited for this guy to run across the bridge and then just jump out and cleave him into two.
Yeah. I've done that multiple times now. My favourite at the moment is using a miracle called Wrath of the Gods, which just knocks people over, and I will hide myself as a box or something on a thin pathway. So as they go to run past, I cast it and just bop them off the edge, and they just fall off the cliff.
The first Rodara of Dark Souls.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from that, because there's not really much to talk about there other than I will bring it up again when I get the platinum, just to announce I've achieved another platinum, like my third one or something. But I've been playing, obviously, Outlast 2. We streamed that. I made some progress since the stream. Not a lot, because actually no, quite a fair amount, but I always hit a bit of a standstill whenever we get to bits. If you recall where we stopped on the stream, where I was trying to push that fucking cart with the dick chopping off bitch. Trying to get me. And whenever I reach a point with her in, it becomes a standstill for a while, because of my natural adoptive face the floor or the wall and just crouch and hope they go away, and she doesn't go away. So I'm at another point with her in. But other than that, Mario Kart 8 came out on Friday as well. So not a lot of time to play it, but enough time to report it's, as wanky a term as it is, it's the definitive Mario Kart 8.
Right. So this is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Switch.
Yeah, so it's, did you love Mario Kart 8, but we're just a little miffed it was 720p? Cool, now it's 1080, but still maintains its 60 FPS. Has a few new characters and tracks that weren't in the original, even if you got all the DLC. And just
Does it still have the Mercedes-Benz?
I don't know. I don't have it, so I'm not sure if I have to unlock it or anything. I don't have it yet. And yeah, I played some online, because I was like, man, how shit am I at Mario Kart 8? I came third in my race,
Nice.
So not that bad.
Not bad.
But yeah, it's just good to see that since Nintendo's fairly infamous for terrible network stuff, that at least with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the network features work fine. I could jump into a race pretty much straight away. The race was good. No issues with it. It maintained the 60 FPS kind of thing the whole way through, so connectivity wasn't an issue at any point through the race. Solid re-release of Mario Kart.
Cool.
Also the perfect game for the Switch.
It is, yeah. Actually, Kyle tried out the 4-player local multiplayer on the Switch screen rather than a TV, just to see how much screen realty each person would have. He said you'd just have to be really desperate for some 4-player Mario Kart to use it, because it's far too small. Like, you could do it, but it's not a particularly pleasant experience.
Yeah, because you'd have literally 2.5 centimeters wide worth of screen. Like.
Yeah, and that would be a lot of that's dedicated to your power ups and your position in the race and everything like that. All that screen clutter.
Flashbacks to my childhood where I used to play on a 14-inch CRT.
Nice.
4-player with the multi-tap, time splitters too. Yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, no, that's me. Mario Kart's great. Outlast 2's freaky. Yeah. And Dark Souls 3's just as good as it was a year ago when I started playing it. Mm-hmm. I'm actually super tempted to re-buy it on PC, just to get, again, the 60 FPS, and everything. But not sure.
Yeah.
It's $130 because they just re-released it on PC with all the DLC, so you can't really get it on the cheap anymore.
$130.
Yeah. Oh. Steam, Monopoly.
It's totally
tough. But yeah, no, that's been me.
Cool.
Good stuff, Reagan. What are you up to, man?
Well, I'm still playing Zelda, and because it's just it's an amazing game in that, like, you can kind of sit down and play it for 5 hours, or you can play it for half an hour, and both are still enjoyable. So yeah, still playing Zelda, nearly got all the Divine Beasts, so like, I don't even know if that's far through at all, but just, having fun with it.
Yeah.
And that kind of is what it is. But yesterday I bought, I guess you could say I pre-ordered the Fractured But Whole. And
but whenever that's going to come out. Yeah.
I now own it. But as part of that on Steam, you also get to download straight away the Stick of Truth. So I started playing that yesterday, and it was a freaking delight. I played it for probably...
It's so good, man. I think, Balthazar, it was mine and your favourite game of that year, right?
Yeah, that year it was definitely up there. I want to say it was the game of the year, unless it was the same year Shadow and Mordor came out, in which case that was my game of the year.
No, that was 2014. I think it was the year
easily
after.
Way up there. I love that game. How
are you finding it, Reagan? What do you reckon? What are your thoughts, man?
I'm only a little way into it, but like I knew it was touted as a really good game, but I didn't really know much about the mechanics of it and how it was done, and I was like, how the fuck are you gonna like move about in this like 2D world that is South Park kind of thing? But yeah, like I was kind of quite surprised to see that it's like the full-on kind of fantasy RPG type setup, and it's just one of those classic sort of things that South Park does so well, is coming up with a ridiculous sort of setting like that and then just making it super plausible by just being kids playing a game sort of thing. So but the humor so far is great. Like for example, I haven't got very far, but like at the start of the game you have to go out and find the best warriors from the village or the city or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, in the neighborhood kind of thing.
Yeah, and one of them is Tweak or the kid Tweak, and you've got to like go to the crack house and and pick up their shipment so they can, Tweak can get off work, things like that. Like it's just, it's great.
It's really good. I remember it being, I was blown away by that game because it was legitimately funny, and that's so rare for a video game. I think there's video games stay away from comedy for good reason. I think the last game I'd played before that tried to be funny was Borderlands, which I absolutely abhor. The humor in that game is unbelievably terrible. That and Battleborn, same Gearbox kind of thing. But South Park I was laughing from like the get-go. I was just like, this is the best long South Park episode they've done in years and years.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. Like even the fact that you can just take a poop and then you can grab out of the toilet a nugget of shit that you can then throw at kids to gross them out. Like, it's genius. Yeah,
it's great. Have you been raiding people's drawers? Bedside drawers and things like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
nice.
Like stealing condoms and different size condoms as well. Like you can get like the jumbo ones and also like the tiny. I can't remember what they call them, but tiny little packs of condoms and things. Yeah, it's great. That's what do they call that in Skyrim? Environmental storytelling.
Definitely.
That's that, but just on a humorous level. It's So I'm looking forward to spending a bunch more time with that. And
are you a big South Park fan of the show? Of the show, Rick?
I wouldn't say so. No. So I've seen a few episodes, but it's like I'm just not great with TV. Like I find it difficult to sit down and watch just episodes of stuff. Like it's just unless it's like super compelling, like Game of Thrones or something like that. I'm just
not a big serial kind of thing.
Yeah, just not great with TV. So it's never been like I've seen a few episodes.
I'm definitely the same there. South Park has always been like the recent seasons, because it's always been an intelligent show. But the recent seasons, obviously, being at an age where I'm aware of current events and then seeing the episodes, portraying those current events in such a, unique yet they're just saying what everyone's thinking kind of light. It's definitely become a mainstay for me. Like I'm like you, I can't really watch. Like I don't hang on to TV much. The way I stick with South Park, I don't know if it's an option for you to do as well. Don't know what your bedroom is like. But I grab episodes as they come out. And then just whenever I have an evening where I just feel like lying down, I'll just go lie in bed and watch them all on the laptop in bed.
Nice.
Because that way I'm still keeping up to date with it all, but it's not like a TV show commitment. It's just like if I have an evening where I really just want to chill in bed, I can be like, sweet, I've got something to do. I've got like 5 new episodes of South Park.
And I suppose it's not the kind of thing where you have to go back to the beginning and watch it from, I don't have to watch all like 20 million seasons or whatever it is that they've done.
No.
I think you could generally just pick it up. But yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I have enjoyed the episodes that I've watched. So maybe
good stuff, man.
But I'll keep you guys posted on that. I'm pumped to get through the whole thing. But that's kind of it for me. How about you, Abe? What's been going on?
I've been... actually, before we move on, I'll just say, Reagan, if you want to watch an episode of South Park, I would recommend one about Magic the Gathering, which is one of my favorites in the last 5 years. It's called Cock Magic. It's incredible. And I don't know much about Magic the Gathering, but I could get the gist of what was going on and how they were skewering it. It's really good. Check it out.
As someone who does play, yes, it is a very accurate interpretation of the Magic the Gathering scene.
But yeah, what I've been playing, I have been playing not too much until yesterday. in which I binged a couple of things in a row. So I picked up What Remains of Edith Finch, which came out in the last week.
Nice.
This is another sort of walking sim game from the developer Giant Sparrow, who did The Unfinished Swan was their last project. A game which I was sort of I was hot and cold on, and then it got to the end and I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty cool way of telling that story once you realize what it's been about, kind of thing.
That was the one where you throw ink.
What Remains of Edith Finch is that plus more. It's a lot better game. It's a lot more cohesive. It's only about 4 hours long, so it's probably about the same length as The Unfinished Swan. It's just sort of it's a mystery walking sim kind of thing where you essentially go into people's diaries or these books and learn more about their lives and how they perished through playing as them. And it's quite fantastical. There's bits where you become a shark or you become an owl or something like that. And so it seems like a lot of it's the old unreliable narrator thing. Like, obviously this didn't happen, but there's a lot of symbolism and you're sort of drawing out how these people actually died. There's some really, really interesting gameplay moments in this game. One which springs to mind, which I'll try not to spoil too much, but it essentially involves multitasking, where you're working a menial job and in this sort of fantasy realm at the same time, and you have to use both analog sticks to sort of control both things at the same time. It's someone kind of escaping into their own mind because they work such a shitty job, which we can all somewhat relate to. And I found it really remarkable. Like sections like that, I've never seen anything like that in a video game, really. So I was really, really digging this game, and I smashed it out in like an afternoon. It's easy enough to do that, and I think I got most of the achievements as well, just by I'm not an achievement hunter at all. I just played the game through, so it's good for that sort of thing as well. So definitely check out What Remains of Edith Finch. I would highly recommend that. The other thing I've been praying, I was going to say, is the Prey demo, which came out.
Oh man, good job. Yeah.
yeah. Thanks to that, Reagan. Came out in the last couple of days. I didn't actually know this was available until someone posted on Reddit and said, "Hey, check out the Prey demo. It's really good." So I downloaded it, and it is really good. It's really interesting. It's the Bethesda published game, developed by Arcane, who did Dishonored. It's got a really interesting sort of art style. It sort of looks a little bit like Dishonored, but
I did wonder if it was from the same developers, because just the things that I've seen, I was like, this feels familiar. So that totally makes sense.
The setting is probably what sets it apart from Dishonored. Dishonored is sort of that old Victorian kind of era where the plague's going on and all that sort of thing. Not really my cup of tea, that historical pieces in particular. I like the sci-fi and futuristic kind of stuff, and that's exactly what Prey is. It's in 2032, I think it's set, and so not too far in the future. But you're a dude who works for he's his first day at this corporation, and you learn of some pretty dastardly things that are going on. And I won't spoil any more because what unfolds is pretty damn cool, and it reminds me of things like Groundhog Day, or it has a very, very, we speculated on this before we'd played it or seen much gameplay. It has a very BioShock feel to it, for sure. It also reminds me of something I'll talk about later on, which is Portal 2. The opening is very, very similar to Portal 2, which I thought was awesome because that game is wonderful. But yeah, you get to play the first hour in the demo, which is pretty generous of them. And it's not sort of a, hey, you played an hour, I'm going to cut you off. It's you get to a certain point where you need to unlock a door, and it literally says on the door lock, you can't play this part. So it's like, oh, okay. But you still get to roam around and still, check out the game and have a look at it and stuff like that.
That sounds great. I might even download that when I get home. Why not?
It's pretty good, although, Reagan, you had feared as much. There is a lot of jump scares.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of what I was thinking, just from watching like honestly 20 seconds of one of the gameplay trailers. It's like, yeah. And once I heard you guys explain the premise, and I was like, yeah, it feels to me like it's just going to be full of cheap, like, desk products turning into enemies, which just. Oh, it doesn't sound great. I'm not going to lie. There is a lot of that. It's kind of cool, though. When you go into a room, you'll
if you're paying attention, you'll see something move or something knock over, and you'll be like, oh, I've got you now. And if you sneak up, on it and smack it with your wrench, which is your main weapon at the start, you can get the drop on the mimics, which are the sort of alien things that take the form of everyday objects. So I kind of like that, going into a room and seeing just like a chandelier swing a little bit, and you're like, you sneaky bastards. It's quite good. But then if you don't take notice, you will get a bit of a fright with a mimic jumping into your face. So not not the greatest of things, but no, very interesting game. It comes out in May, so I think it's 26th or something like that. So not too far away. So I think I might pick that one up. Cool. It sold me the demo.
Nice.
But yeah, that's me. That's been me for the last week and a bit. We'll move on to the segment which we started last week, which I called "Pitch Me a Dream." Now, Reagan, do you want to fill us in and remind us of what the game you got was last week?
Absolutely. So Pitch Me a Dream is where we use a random video game name generator to generate a video game name, and then basically one of us has to take that video game name and try and pitch it to the other two, who are going to act as representatives from some popular game companies. And the game title that I have got is Heavy Metal STD Polo, which
I've been looking forward to this.
Seems random, but we're going to give it a shot. So Balthazar, you were Capcom.
Bandai Namco. You've just lost some money there already. Can't even remember who's doing it.
And Abe, you were
Ubisoft. I was Ubisoft, I believe. Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft, yeah.
Right. Well, thank you both for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to, sit down and I think this is a huge opportunity for me and for the game that I've been building. I think you'll be really excited by this. Now, I want to start off with a quick question for you both. What's the greatest sport known to man? You're thinking polo, aren't you? You are thinking polo. I can see it in your eye. What's not to love about polo? Horses, men, coming together in a glorious game that we now celebrate as polo. And what is your greatest fear? I can see that as well. You're thinking a sexually transmitted disease. And what if these two things came together in harmony to create a gaming experience that was just the greatest pinnacle of games ever? Well, this is it. This is Heavy Metal STD Polo. This game is a side-scrolling roguelike, and as you come into combat with your enemies, turn-based polo matches begin. All of the weapons and the collectibles are based on various STDs with things like buffs and debuffs depending on kind of your weapons that you have and your equipment and the way that they can kind of respond to those various STDs. And I'm really excited to kind of show you what we have on offer today. How does that sound?
Very good. I just have one question for you, Regan. At Ubisoft, it's all about the open world. So we need the open world aspect. We need to be able to put up a vertical space, many vertical objects for a player to climb. Is this possible?
I'm sure that we could work those in. I mean, we're looking at currently side-scrolling levels, but there is the potential for verticality in our Polo scenes, I think. I'll need to have a think about that because we did want to steer clear of towers. Are you wanting us to put towers in the game?
Not necessarily towers, vertical spires, maybe.
Okay, well, let me have a think about that. And I'm sure we can work that in somewhere into the game. Namco, any thoughts, any questions?
I didn't know we were doing voices, so hold on to your hats, gentlemen. What is multiplayer? Multiplayer. What is multiplayer?
If you want to play multiplayer in Heavy Metal STD Polo, you can. We'll be opening up servers on the day of release, where there is PvP Polo games that can be played. So we're looking to introduce multiplayer right on the day of release. At the moment, we're not quite sure whether this is going to be a paid service or not. But if you guys are willing to look at that, then we're happy to kind of incorporate some multiplayer. And we know that your player base absolutely loves a bit of online PvP.
Very happy with the PvP.
Very happy. Good. Thank you.
Reagan, it's talking Uplay. Uplay, Ubisoft, very good platform.
Unacceptable! Bandai Namco will not be associated with Uplay.
We need chess. We need specific Uplay integration. Do you have micro transaction room for more money?
I think we can also work that in. So as I mentioned, we're going to have various weapons, collectibles, and armor sets based on various STDs. So I think we could probably look at some microtransactions based on probably some of the worst STDs out there. You can probably figure out what those will be, but we figure those should be premium content. And I think that would really easily work into the Uplay game. Perhaps earn 50 Uplay points per purchase of an STD riddled sword, for example. So I think it could work quite well.
Very good, very good. We also, as you know, we're working on South Park, Fractured Parole. But do you think integration, crossover?
Potentially, we would need to speak with the creators of South Park on that one. I think it could work really well, although our game is going to be very serious. I mean, with a heavy metal soundtrack, it's. I mean, we're not poking fun here. This is a serious game for serious Polo fanatics. So mixing it in with South Park may not work, but I'm open to it.
You speak of music too, licensed music?
The music is going to be in-house music. We have commissioned a heavy metal band from Upper Hutt to play all of the metal.
I do not know of this Upper Hutt, but I will look into it.
Google it. It's kind of like the New Zealand centre for heavy metal.
Very good, very good.
What happen if Polo teammate die? How they come back? New teammate?
It depends if you're playing online or if you're playing in the single player mode. If you're playing single player, you can use various kind of inoculations to bring them back to life. Shots of various kind of things that would cure those STDs that's been the cause, and we can basically bring them back to life that way. Online, they're out of the match.
Good.
So I hope you guys can. I'm really looking forward to hearing whether or not you guys are interested in actually, taking this on board. But thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. You were welcome in Montreal, Paris, anytime.
Excellent. I'll be in touch. Thank you very much both for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So there you have it, lads. Heavy Metal STD Polo. Coming to the PlayStation Store soon.
Good stuff. It looks like those guys have just taken off to grab their bus back into to grab their plane to take back off to their corresponding countries. So no, that's really good. Interesting, Reagan. Interesting being a bystander to that.
Yeah. Would you guys play that game?
I personally, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of promise.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a heavy metal soundtrack to random encountered Polo games with weapons that are riddled with STDs sounds like a good time.
Very much. I'm intrigued by the heavy metal soundtrack from the band from Upper Hutt. Probably some bands I could put you in touch with.
Oh, great! Yeah, cool. That sounds good.
That's awesome. Balthazar, I think you're next on the the old chopping block for the Pitch Me a Dream. So if you want to
Sure.
generate yourself a game,
Yeah, I've got the site up here. I'll click generate now. Okay,
Oh,
and my
man.
game title is Turbo Bandicoot Boy.
Ooh.
all right. There might be some infringement.
Yeah, some IP infringement. Wow, Turbo Bandicoot
Yeah.
Boy. I mean, it lends itself obviously to, a platforming game.
Yeah, but that's a bit too obvious, isn't it?
It is a bit too obvious. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, depending on your artistic interpretation, we could could be anything really.
What are your
Could be a
early,
VR
early
experience.
thoughts?
To be honest, I'm thinking a racing game,
Ah,
but not your normal racing game. Not a racing around a track against people. Thinking more like a demolition racing game.
oh yeah, Twisted Metal type thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. I'm all for that.
Probably a lot of mascot-esque characters in it, building the player base.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Awesome, man. Well, Reagan, which developer do you think would be best suited for this to be pitched to?
I am going to say I'm going to go with my favorite because they've done some random little niche stuff on the side sometimes. I'm going to be Rockstar. I'm gonna be
Interesting.
Rockstar Games.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was thinking about when you brought up racing, Balthazar. That made me think of racing devs. Now, it doesn't sound like a game Polyphony Digital would do, the guys who did Gran Turismo, but why not? I'll be Polyphony.
Yeah, nice.
All right.
Nice. Cool. There we go. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Absolutely. So we'll move into a few discussion topics because there's been sweet bugger all that's happened in the news, to be honest, and we have these been building up over the weeks, a load of different discussion topics. So we've got to start knocking them off because I'm dying to talk about some of these things. So one I really wanted to talk to you guys about since my some would say battle with ukulele at points. Mechanics that need to die in a ditch, to put it bluntly. Mechanics that are archaic. They don't add anything to games. In fact, they take away actively from games that are still knocking around. What are mechanics that you guys think just need to be removed from the vocabulary of developers?
So I think, to be honest, I don't have any that I think no developers should be allowed to touch, and are just mechanics that should never exist. Because I think for almost every mechanic that you've played 100 bad versions of, the instance in which it was first used, it was viable and valuable in that usage, typically.
Right.
Mechanics were created for a reason when they're initially incepted, and so I think I wouldn't want any to be gone for fear of something good being created in the future that uses them really well. But I'm going to interpret the question as what mechanics should people who have no experience with or knowledge of stop using? And for me, the big one as a Souls fan is losing all your experience and currency and shit when you die.
Okay, so
isn't that
that's like quite a big mechanic in the Souls and Bloodborne series?
Yeah, and I think no one other than those developers should be allowed to touch that mechanic, because there have been so many the genre now is called Souls-like. So many Souls-like fucking games coming out with that mechanic, and it just doesn't have a place in them. They don't incorporate it well, and it just feels like all it's doing is slowing your progress. It doesn't feel like it's a punishment for fucking up. It feels like it's a punishment for buying their game. Like, it's just... Neo is a recent example of a game that I enjoyed, but that mechanic had no place in it. There was also Lords of the Fallen. Again, enjoyed that game. That mechanic was just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was I played recently. There was a game I played where I had no idea why it was there. They used it as well, and it wasn't even like a Souls-like game. They just had, if you die, you have to get back to your body to recover your stuff. I think it was items and equipment. If you die... Nier.
Oh, Nier Automata.
When you die, you lose your chips. Like, you have a kind of chip set.
Yeah.
That are basically your abilities, because you're an Android, so you install plug-in chips and everything. When you die, all your chips are on that Android body, because one of the mechanics of the game is kind of your consciousness is uploaded into a new body and redispatched on the same mission. So to recover all your chips, you have to go back to your body and get them back again. That mechanic had no place in that game, to the extent that, not really spoilers, they get rid of the mechanic in the third act. So that if you die, you don't lose all your shit and have to go back to your body. You just get a game over screen and have to reload, kind of thing. Like, that mechanic, like, I love that game to pieces, but that mechanic for the first 2 acts had no place in that game. And that mechanic needs to die in a ditch for anyone other than Souls developers. Because it's just
Did God of War and Devil May Cry have that as well?
No, they didn't. You kept everything. You lost anything you got from the last checkpoint kind of thing, but those games were checkpoint games. So, you get up to the checkpoint. If you die after the checkpoint, you go back to the checkpoint, and you still have what you had at that checkpoint, but you don't keep anything you gained after the checkpoint.
Interesting. Reagan, have you got any thoughts on that or your own suggestion?
Yeah, I see that's the thing. I think you've made a fair point. Like, I think that there is a place for those, but it's only the kind of thing that would work well if used in the right kind of scenario, and there was a reason for it to be like that. I'm just trying to think of my own example. I'm sort of struggling a little bit. I'm just trying to. I think one thing that's kind of I'm thinking about Zelda because that's kind of fresh on my brain. Is I'm not necessarily sure that this mechanic in general needs to die in a ditch, but it needs kind of careful use, and that is like weapon degradation and and that kind of thing in games. Especially if they're just going to explode into a million pieces and that's that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, for example, when The Witcher 3 had this, but your weapons would never really break. They would just would they break?
Do slightly less, I think.
They do less damage.
Even if they broke, you could always repair them at the black. Like, they were never gone forever. Yeah.
And I think the cost of repairing them was like okay, and I think that was all right. But I think that when you're using that mechanic, you've got to be really careful about how you balance that with the rest of the game. So if it's going to break, that's fine. Obviously, you've got to have a lot of new weapons coming along to restock, which Zelda does, but to me, it just gets a little bit annoying. It's kind of the only part of that game that frustrates me, even a little bit.
It sort of removes the importance of any weapon, really.
Essentially, like, and I've had a few weapons where I'm like, oh man, this thing is the tits. Like, this is great. And then, like, and it seems like the higher damage weapons have less durability, and so they die a little bit quicker. Or maybe that's just because I use them more, perhaps. But
throw it in an Octorok.
What now?
If you throw a weapon that's damaged in an Octorok, it spits it back out with 100% durability again.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Is that just a bug?
Nah, it's intended. It's a feature.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's good to know. But yeah, I don't know. That's one thing that I think like maybe doesn't need to be killed altogether, but needs to be really carefully thought about whenever it's used as item and weapon degradation.
Because I think like you used Witch 3 as an example of where they used it, but it did work really well. Because the whole massive part of that game was, especially if you played it on the higher difficulties like Deathmarch, was preparing for fights before you went into them.
Yeah.
So removing the fact that your weapons could get weaker and you needed to maintain and upkeep those, that would have a negative effect on the whole preparing beforehand and everything. So I think it had a really good place there. But yeah, definitely I agree. In the earlier hours of Breath of the Wild, it was annoying me a lot. I'm not sure. I think you hit a point in the game where you start getting almost every weapon that drops has durability up + on it or whatever, and so they last fucking forever. But yeah, definitely at the start that mechanic needed to get out.
Apart from the technical issues with that game, that's pretty much the only complaint I've seen with Breath of the Wild is the weapon durability and how it sort of makes it removes the special nature of any weapon or a player bonding with a specific skill set or weapon type or anything like
totally.
that.
Even the weapons that you get for doing like big things in the story, they're like, hey, I've got this really special gift for you, and it's like a bow, and then like 20 minutes later their bows fall
smashed into 1,000 pieces,
and it's like, oh, like that was super special.
Have you ever gone to recraft any of the like dungeon ones?
No, I haven't done any
because
of them
those
yet.
ones are great. You go, I'm thinking especially the Garuda one, and their leader Urbosa used that sword and shield for fucking years, and they were the height of craftsmanship in their thing. And then you go back and you're like, oh, I need to recraft one, And they're like, what? This thing was used for 100 years. How did you, a child, break it? And then you're like, oh, actually, I need both. They both broke. And they're like, what? Like, they get so mad. And it's like, well, maybe you should just make them better. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me one with durability up. That'd be great. But yeah, what about you, Abe? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've got a couple that spring to mind. Specifically with ukulele recently, there was something that really frustrated me and was a sign of what I feel is bad or at least old game design, where they block parts of the world or the levels off just completely artificially. There's just a non-smashable thing in front of it, and you're just like, oh, I can't go in this part yet. Ukulele has the whole thing where where you gather items and you can choose to use those items to expand a world or open a new world. So when you expand the world, those sections get unblocked. But when you see what is obviously another part of the level blocked off for no other reason than you don't have enough collectibles, it really takes you out of the game. It breaks that immersion for you, and I found that really, really frustrating.
That's interesting as well, because like you said, it is a mechanic that's essentially gone from modern games, and it's almost only in ukulele because it was such a prime mechanic back in the 90s and things like that. But at the same time, I can think of games in the 90s that did it really well. Like, we harp on a lot when it comes to old games about how great Conker's Bad Fur Day was, but that was another thing that Conker's did, was it never felt artificial. Yes, part of the level was blocked off, but it was always, a character blocking it off. Maybe it was, a construction worker or something, and he was like, nah, I'm not moving these rocks yet, I'm on my break. Fuck off, kind of thing.
And
you go back later, and he would have, gotten his ass into gear and cleared the path for you, kind of thing. And yes, it was still artificially blocked off until you'd done something else, but you didn't feel like it was just a nothing stopping your way until you did something. You felt like in this world there is a legitimate reason at the moment for this path being blocked off.
And that's not difficult
the logic
to do
of the
either.
world.
Yeah, it's not, and that's totally not difficult to do. Like, I'm sure with like a rock fall that's blocking off a thing in ukulele, they could have just had a character standing there is standing there scratching his head going, oh, I just fell down, I'm not quite sure how to clear it. Like, there you go.
Yeah,
given it context.
Definitely, there's a lot of ways to get around it, kind of thing, and it did come across to me as a bit lazy. Like, I know they didn't have too much time to do, I don't know, 2 years or something to develop this game, but it comes across as a little bit haphazard kind of thing when you see something like that, and it just really takes you out of the game when you see something like that, and you just think about why is that, what internal logic is this using in the game to block me from going down this passage or proceeding into this part of the world. And if you can't answer that question, then I think that's bad game design in my eyes, kind of thing. The Witcher and Dark Souls and things like that do it really well, where if you stray into a part where you probably shouldn't be yet, you learn pretty quickly that you shouldn't be there because there's a bunch of overpowered bloody things, and you get absolutely decimated.
Yeah, I remember early on playing The Witcher, finding like a I was like level 6 or 7 or something, and finding like a level 25 griffin just hanging out on a like the edge of this bank, and what's the opening place? Not
White Orchard.
The fuck is Velen?
Yeah, Velen, that's the one.
Oh, Velen, yeah.
In Velen, and just like dying and being like, well, clearly not meant to be like venturing down here, and it's like, yeah, and it doesn't feel cheap. It's like, okay, well, I've just gone too far, like.
Yeah, and it comes back again to not patronizing the player, which I think is incredibly important in gaming, wherein you can make your own decisions from that. You're like, oh, there's a level 25 griffin, I'm level 2, I shouldn't be, there's no reason for me to be here. The game is subtly guiding me in the fact that I'm just going to get destroyed by this overpowered enemy. It's guiding me back to where I should really go without saying, hey, go over here, please, or there's a wall, you can't go here, kind of thing. That's something I really do not like in games. The only other one that I can think of off the top of my head is escort missions, which aren't too common anymore, but they really do my head in when they're done poorly.
I was going to say fetch quests earlier, but then I was like, oh, it's a bit too obvious, but a bit too obvious. But I think you're right, man. Escort missions.
Probably lump both together somewhat, but I mean, the only game that's done it well in the last 5 years is, I want to say The Last of Us, but that's not even really an escort mission because Ellie can defend herself like really, really well. You don't have to look after her, and it does break immersion when her character goes in plain sight of enemies because she's glitched through a wall or something like that, or and the enemies just don't even react to her kind of thing because that would make the game obnoxious if they saw her and it wasn't your fault. But Ellie can hold her own and she can take people out for you and stuff like that. And going back and playing games, like I bought Eco and I bought Shadow of the Colossus on PS2 in the last year, and going back and playing Eco, it's brutal. It's so brutal having to, especially Eco, because that's the ultimate escort mission. The whole game's an escort mission. You're just holding the hand of this girl and circle to hold her hand and go and beat the enemies with a stick and then go and grab her hand. And
it sounds awful.
I don't know. I think I appreciate that game a lot more than I enjoy playing it. I never finished it, so that's probably testament to how much I appreciated it.
I am thinking of an escort mission, well, sort of an escort mission in Zelda actually, where you're going after one of the divine beasts, and there's this like you're going after what's the one called that's on the volcano. You're going after that one anyway, and you've kind of
salamander guy.
Yeah, big old salamander.
That dude.
And you've got to kind of like he follows you up the mountain, and you have to sort of like tell him when to stop and start to avoid these kind of drones seeing him. But at the same time, like it all comes back to that idea of like if you're gonna do something, there has to be like a reason within that game world to be doing it. And that wasn't too bad because you sort of needed him to help you board this beast sort of thing. So like he was there for a reason. It wasn't just like
he was the bullet. You put him in a cannon and shoot him.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Yeah. So yeah, I think as long as there's context to these things, it's permissible. But yeah, I don't know. It's just when they're clunky, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, when they're just haphazardly thrown together, I think is when it all falls apart. Obviously, they could be used and skewered. Things like Nier Automata, I would imagine, would be able to, if they use the escort mission, they'd be able to skewer that because it's essentially a game making fun of things like that, sort of to some extent. From what I know, I haven't actually played it, but that's what the various non-spoilery things I've read. It's sort of hinted at that, so that's what I assume is going on there. But any others that you guys can think of?
You actually mentioned one a long time ago when we first put this idea down on the discussion thing. And at the time, I was like, I actually can't think of any instances where I've had this. And then I replayed Shadow of Mordor. And it also has the insufferable instant fail if you're seen stealth missions.
Oh, man. Yes. How could I forget?
Yeah,
I can't... This is the exception that proves the rule. That I said earlier of everything must have a good instance of when it was done. I can't think of it ever being done in a way that wasn't obnoxious. Like, it's just ridiculous. Even escort missions I can think of being done, in a good way. But this one, it's not a mechanic. It's not a mechanic. It's a game over screen.
Yeah,
if you enter the line of sight of an enemy, game over instantly.
I found that, most recently playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, that came back into the picture, and I just about lost it. I cannot stand that. If I'm seen, it should just be my own fault, and then I should have to deal with whatever happens, waves of enemies, and maybe I can get out of it, maybe I can't. But insta-fail is super lazy game design.
I think that's it. It's lazy. Like I was thinking about it before. I was going to use the word lazy. Like it's just kind of like, oh, all right, cool. Okay, they need to do the stealth mission. Stealth's fine in itself, but we just can't be. We don't have time to build like a consequence to it. We'll just start them from square one. That's one line of code. It's
and it wasn't even like in Shadow of Mordor. They tried to do the whole make sense in universe, where the mission was you had to spike all the grog in a orc encampment, and if they saw you, then you fail because they would know that their grog had been spiked. That would make sense to me if you got the game over screen if they saw you while you were in the act of poisoning a barrel. but it's just if they just see you walking around the camp. Now, these are orcs. They're fucking idiots. They're not going to catch you walking around the camp and be like, oh, better throw out all these barrels of grog. He's probably spiked them. Yeah. Like, no, they're orcs. They'd just be like, oh, the ranger's snooping around. Better kill him. Oh, he got away. Oh, well, let's go drink some grog.
Right, it's that too, right? Like, you're always in confrontations with enemies in that game, so why is it any different during that mission?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they just throw every enemy in that area at you
at once? Yeah.
You know? I guess because if you killed everyone, you'd be poisoning the grog of an empty camp. But you know.
Yeah, it was just it didn't make sense. It was unnecessary. Just remove the whole poisoning mechanic if you can't really make it work anyway. Because that's the only time I ever used it. That and getting a trophy.
The worst instance I can think of the automatic fail in stealth missions is a PlayStation 2 game I played back in the day called Shadow of Rome. Which was really, really good for the sections that didn't involve stealth. So it was a sort of a hybrid of gladiatorial matches and just insta-fail stealth sections. And I rented it out with a friend, and we used to have fights over who got to do the gladiatorial ones, because the insta-fail stealth was just it was so frustrating. It was and you just felt like you had to force your way through it to get to the really good fun stuff. Like the gladiatorial matches, you could cut off someone's arm and beat them with it. That's awesome.
That is great.
I'd fight really cool.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to go through this horrible, elongated stealth section with no checkpoints. That if you did one wrong thing, you'd have to go back to the start, and it just made you want to tear your face off.
Those seem like really weird mechanics to have decided on. Like, okay, cool, we're gonna have this awesome fighting mechanic, and it's gonna be the shit with like dismemberable limbs and things like that, and then stealth. Like those are so far
contrasting,
away from one another. Yeah.
Jarring tonal shift between those two things.
Bizarre. But anyway, there you go. There's a few that can die in a ditch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably all we've got time for in terms of discussions. We'll move on to the final section of the podcast, which, as always, is a top 10 from someone's list. And this week, it is me. So I'm going to talk about, I hinted at it earlier in the podcast, Portal 2, which is probably my favorite puzzle game, I think, if I had to really sit down and think about it. Portal 2 is essentially a perfect game to me. Have either of you guys played this?
Yes.
No, but I have it on my hard drive at home, so I should play it.
Yeah, it's always about $3 on Steam now, so definitely pick it up. It's just this wonderful amalgamation of pitch black humor, really, really simple mechanics, really good storytelling, really good player direction and incentive to play through the game. Really excellent voice acting as well, from people like Stephen Merchant and J.K. Simmons, who play Wheatley, the sort of robot that you meet at the start of the game. And J.K. Simmons is sort of I suppose he's the mastermind behind the dilapidated factory, the Portal technology and the factory that you're running through in Portal 2. So Portal 1 was pretty much an experiment by Valve, released with the orange box in, I think it was 2007.
I don't believe it was made by Valve.
Half-Life 2.
Was it?
What was that?
I don't believe it was made by Valve, was it? Portal 1 was Valve. It was a bunch of kids made it, like a bunch of school kids made it.
It was the idea came from a game called Narbacular Drop, which a bunch of uni tech kids made, and Valve sort of hired them all to make this game. But on paper, it's developed by Valve because they hired these kids, so it's sort of Valve's game kind of thing. But no, you're absolutely right. The idea didn't come from Valve to start with, but it was an experiment in terms of the gameplay and Valve putting it out. It wasn't a Counter-Strike. It wasn't a Half-Life. It wasn't an iteration to one of their previous series, and it was just sort of a very simple. You have one orange portal, one blue portal. You can go through wherever the blue portal's placed, and wherever the orange portal's placed, to create a wormhole for you to go through, and you'll appear through the other one. Really, really interesting, easy to understand mechanic. But the game also had a story sort of buried in there. You didn't have to look for it too hard, but there were snippets of a really interesting, conspiracy theory kind of technology gone awry story in there. And Portal 2 just expands on that like a motherfucker. It just takes all that stuff and builds on it and builds characters into the story, and you team up with there's unlikely allies from people from the previous game and things like that. I just really love the sense of humor in this game. It's just incredibly dark. They give personality to inanimate objects, and then you have to watch them perish, and it's sort of like, I don't know. It reminds me a lot of British sensibilities in terms of Guy Ritchie, Snatch, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, that sort of dry, quick-witted stuff. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of that. But I just, every time I play through this game, I must have played through it about 5 times by now. I just have a blast, and I just love the innovation with the portal gun. And in Portal 2, they introduced things like a bouncing or different gels that you can use. So one gel will make you go really fast if you slide through it. One gel will make whatever touches it bounce around. So you have to sort of incorporate that sort of works within the portal mechanics as well. So you get something to bounce through a portal and then land on a switch and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty much what I love. It's puzzles, but there's a really, really good through line and a really good story all the way through the 8 to 10 hour game time as well.
Nice. Oh, so it's not super long.
No.
Do we know? Are there any rumors of there being another, like a follow up to it, or
no? There's nothing. The way it sort of ends, I don't. If I was to place my bets, I would say there isn't going to be a Portal 3.
Have you played any of the add-on, like the kind of the free workshop things that are alternate stories and stuff like that set in the Portal universe?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely not out of the question. It just seems Portal 2 came out in 2011, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that is a while ago. Yeah.
So and Valve are notorious for essentially not listening to anyone but themselves, which is the best thing to do. To be honest,
notorious for twos. Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2,
definitely.
and then they're like,
no threes allowed.
Yeah, we're not going to make Half-Life 3. We're going to do episodic instead, and we're going to do 3 episodes. Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Stopped there. Like, they've never made a 3.
Yep, leaving everyone with the biggest blue balls in gaming history.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
But yeah, no, I adore Portal 2, and I'm thinking about playing it again now, actually, because I haven't played it in a while and I love it so much. But highly recommend anyone who hasn't played that, play Portal 1, because that's like 2 hours or something, very, very short game. Then play Portal 2, and I can pretty much guarantee you'll have a blast.
And also, if you have the opportunity, play Portal 2 in VR, because GLaDOS is fucking terrifying. Just the sheer scale, the size.
Does Portal 2 have VR support?
Yeah, you can mod it in. It's not, I don't think it's like locally there, but it is a workshop item you can just grab for free.
Very cool.
And yeah, the first time you see GLaDOS in 2 in VR, the scale is just immense. Like, it's genuinely frightening.
That's awesome. So yeah, that's my top 10 for this week. I think that's about us for the podcast. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we head off?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been isn't it a weird space at the moment? Like, there's nothing coming out that's really grabbing me. Like, are you guys just? I'm kind of hanging out.
Waiting for end of June. That's it.
Yeah.
Stormblood is like the next thing on my list that I actually care about. Really.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're in a bit of a lull.
Prey's kind of on the brain for me, and I'm still Persona 5 is always on the brain now, because once I found out what it was, I was like, that's really freaking cool. Like, just the basic premise of it, I didn't even know. And once I kind of figured out what that was, it is a bit esoteric. I kind of want to play a JRPG now. So
wow,
there you go.
That could be a game changer for you, Abe. You know.
It could be. It could be. You might see me delving into like really bizarre, indie JRPGs after this or something like
totally.
that.
Your amiibo collection will treble in size.
Skyrocket. Yeah, but thanks everyone for tuning in as per usual. We can be found on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places, and we try to broadcast a stream every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. New Zealand time on twitch.tv/Overcast Gamer, and we do the podcast usually every 2 weeks, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on what's going on in life. But thank you again for listening, and we will see you guys again in a week and a bit. Catch you later.
Ciao.
See ya.